So, in this video, I'll talk about a topic that makes a lot of people question when they come to Brazil and see that there are, from one side, a lot of poor people, and in the other side, a lot of wealth and rich people with luxury cars and things like this. What's happening to Brazil? Why there is so much inequality here? What happens here? I think this is one of the best videos you will see about the topic because I'm a native here. I have business here. I'm lived here over the last 35 years, studied a lot economy and a lot of things. So I have this theoric thinking and the practical experience here in Brazil. Okay, because many people has this theoretical thinking but never really opened a business in Brazil. Does not know in fact how it works to go there and hire people and make a business happen. Okay, doesn't know. Okay, so I will explain this thing separating two points here. One point is why there are so many poverty in Brazil, and the second point, why there are so many riches in Brazil. Okay, because are 2 points that are not connected. They are connected, okay. For understand one, you have to understand the other, but it's not a thing that there are so many rich because there are so many poor people. It's not the rich fault that we have poor. It's not like this. That economy doesn't work like this. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what are the guilty for this in this video. Okay, so stay with me until the end. Okay, first of all, let's understand why there are so many poor here in Brazil. And the answer is complex. Okay, if I would record a video about that, it will be hours and hours of duration, but I can point here the main guilt, because there are so many poor in Brazil. Okay, and the main guilt is simple. The answer is the government. Okay, the government and only the government is the responsible for the poorness of the people. Are not the rich people are the responsible. No, are not the rich people. And I'm gonna explain why in this video, and you are understand once for all this. The only guilt for the poorness of the people is the government. And what governments do to make this, to create this huge amount of poor here? Well, it's simple. He generates inflation. Okay, the government here in Brazil, we have this chronic problem of the inflation. It's persisting for many decades here. Many decades in Brazil has never been able to really solving this problem. We had over 10 currencies in the last century, 10 different currencies, and every currency we have the same problem. The government is always making shit, populism after populism, and this populism demands of the population generates populism demands in the government, because if the government is not populist, I'm not saying left or right, I'm not saying right or left, it's populism. The problem here is populism. There is this cultural very profound feeling in the population, this culture for demanding things from the government. And Brazil has never had the opportunity to be really a rich country and has money to go there and really do all the populism that people demand. Okay, so Brazil is always this thing, the government that has not enough money, but the population wants everything for the government, and government go there and do the populism they promise, and this populism generates a huge government expenditure, and we have this thing is related to the government. Okay, and making shit after shit after shit, and it goes like generate inflation and in money impression and stupid government expenditures in the economy, and it generates inflation. Inflation prejudices who in first place? The poor, okay? Because inflation goes generally in the basic things like food, like rent, and year after year, from decades, the low class, the poor, and the middle class has this phenomenon of have a lower quality of life. Okay, lower and lower and lower and lower year after year after year. That's a very proven thing. Okay, because it's very clear in my mind. My grandparents, okay, have the condition of raising 7 children and have a home and have everything, only one person in the home working. Okay, that was my grandparent. In my mother's case, the thing was a little bit worse. Okay, she can barely raise 2 children, and in my generation it's even worse. Okay, today let me say here, the minimum wage here is about 1.2 thousand reais, 1.5 thousand reais, and it's about $200. Okay, $200. With $200 you can barely survive. So today the middle class and the poor are like this, going down, going down, going down, because of the inflation. The government every year, Brazil doesn't solve this problem of free market competition, capitalism. Is always this conflict of left and right, and the populism and the leftism that is inside people's mind until today. People is very tending to the left here in Brazil, and we doesn't have a free market here, never in the history. Okay, a really free market as we see in first world countries. Okay, so this makes the price go high, the inflation go high, the number of jobs be very low, the productivity be very low. Okay, so things, the inflation it tends to raise year after year. There are some periods that the inflation is a little bit lower, but in general numbers, the inflation is always above the average, and could be a lot lower if Brazil be more, let me say, productive and more capitalist, free market thing. Okay, this is a very complex. I have a lot of videos in this channel explaining in details what are the factors that makes life for the entrepreneurs here are so hard. Okay, so see my other videos, I explain here in detail. So all this problem in the economy, in the populism, in the government, in the inflation generates the poor. Okay, so that's why we see a huge amount of poor here in Brazil. It's not the rich fault. Okay, it's not the rich. Now let's understand why there are so many rich in Brazil, so many people with luxury cars and things like this. Okay, well, in Brazil we have this very difficult environment, above the average, to open a business. If you see my other videos, you will understand how is to open a business, what are all the things that difficult a lot here in Brazil. Is a hostile environment to open a business. Okay, it's very clear that it's like the government and the society doesn't want you to have a business to generate jobs. Every year he is making up something too difficult, you hire people. Okay, it's simply unbelievable. Year after year he makes up a new tax inside the hiring, a new tax is be more expensive. For you to have a notion, 2 years ago when I was hiring my last employer, the government simply make up a tax from the thin air. Now you have to pay extra, not for the employee, but for the government. You have to pay a tax for the government about the absurd, like 1,000 reals for each employee. I mean, it's absurd. Why he make up this tax? He just figure out, and it's not a direct tax. Is one thing that you have to hire a specialist to pay this tax. Okay, you have to hire a specialist to make up this tax and be very expensive to hire a person. So why the government do like this? He makes he difficult and prejudice the entrepreneur year after year. It's unbelievable. It passes the impression that the government is always pursuing the entrepreneur, pursuing and make his life difficult and more difficult. So, but whatever. In Brazil, we have this a lot of hostile environment to the entrepreneur. So, is a lot more riskier investing in Brazil in comparison to first world country, because we have this instability, political instability, political environment, and everything like this. So in a market like this, we have a thing called volatility. We have ups and downs, more pronunciated. Okay, it's if you see in the stocks here in Brazil, you see there is a volatility. Okay, we have this volatility because is an inherent characteristic of the markets. We doesn't have a very stable economy here, so we have this volatility. So the up and downs are very high. So a person, when the person decides to open a business, she can go bankrupt more easily, let me say, than in first world country. But if if the company go well, the person goes like this to the up, okay, more quickly than in other countries, because here we have fewer competition than in other countries, because it's very difficult to open a business. The environment is very hostile because many factors I mentioned in other videos. So if they open a business here in Brazil, you can go bankrupt from day to night, but you can go very quickly up. Okay, as I said, the volatility is huge. Okay, because it's not easy to win here in this market. Okay, but when you win, when you surpass all these difficulties, I say here, you can skyrocket very fastly than in other countries. Okay, everything has pros and cons. Okay, I'm not saying that this hostile environment here in Brazil is 100% bad for the entrepreneur. Okay, it could be positive because it makes you it gives you the opportunity, because of the volatility, of going skyrocket faster than in other countries that are more easy to open a business, but there are more competition. Here we have much less competition. Okay, so that's why there are some people that open business and go well and win all this environment, all this thing, and they skyrocket. Yes, they make a lot of money because Brazil is a huge country. There are many consumers here, people demanding products and service, and there are low competition here, and it's not easy. It's harder than in other countries, but if you can figure out what you have to do here and understand the particularities of here, you can skyrocket fast. Okay, but it's not easy. It's particularly Brazil has a lot of downsides in comparison to other countries, and you have to study a lot my channel to begin to understand. I'm not promising you'll be a master in Brazil if you watch my channel, but you will have a better understanding how Brazil works if you watch my channel than the average. Okay, so that's it. I think it's enough. I think there are a lot of more things to talk about, but I think it's enough for this video. Put in the comments what you think about, and see you. Thank you.